Your unique story, our global audience. Global One Media.
Greetings and welcome to yet another enlightening episode of our equity research series with Chris Thompson. In this series, we meticulously dissect the fundamentals of a wide range of companies, aiming to empower investors with comprehensive knowledge for intelligent decision-making. I'm your host and business analyst, Munir Barazi, and joining us today is Chris Thompson. As the president and director of research at eResearch, Chris leads a team that conducts in-depth equity research on a multitude of stocks, offering rich, actionable insights. Hello, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks for inviting me.
So you've recently written an update report on Canadian North Resources, or CNRI, a company overseeing the Ferguson Lake Project. For investors who might not know the company and project, can you give us a quick overview?
Yeah, so Canadian North Resources, or as you said, CNRI, is focused in Canada, in the Nunavut area of Canada. It's one of the territories in northern Canada. They're focused on the Ferguson Lake Project, which was originally about a little less than 100 square kilometers, but they enlarged the package now, and it's up more than 250 square kilometers. So it's a real district scale sort of project. They own it 100%. And this is not a new project. This has been around for a number of years. It's gone through a number of hands. The work's been done since the 1950s, and a lot of exploration, a lot of drilling has been done to define the project. And over $140 million now, I think close to $160 million with the work that CNRI has done to move this project along. The project already has a base camp. It already has a lot of infrastructure in the area, a lot of equipment. And even an airstrip, which helps to lower the economics for the project because it has a lot of infrastructure already in place. Now, the original project did focus just on the base metals of the project, which were the copper and the nickel on the project. But once CNRI took over the project, they've also now included the platinum and palladium, what we call the platinum group metals, the PGMs that are on the site. And it includes rhodium, which is one of the most precious of all the metals. It's trading right now at about $6,000 an ounce. So it's actually, more expensive than gold and silver and platinum and palladium. They've also recently found some pegmatites on the site. So they're looking at doing a little exploration on lithium. So it's a real polymetallic site. They have 10 zones across about 16 kilometers that they're working on. They did an update using some of the historical drilling and published it in 2022. So they have a resource on the project, but it just included mineralization from 5 of the 10 zones. So there's lots of upsides from the existing 5 zones. That's part of that resource, but also there's 5 other zones that can expand the resource from. And the last thing that's the key for this project is they've got money in the bank. They've got about $9 million, so that more than funds them for this year. So that's the company and the project in a nutshell right now.
Well, they've dedicated a lot of resources, and the inclusion of platinum group metals is certainly a positive factor. Can you mention some of the key highlights from your update report?
Yeah, so the initiation report we did mid last year. So the company's been very busy since July of last year. They've completed a drill program in both 2022 as well as the spring of this year. As I mentioned earlier, they found some granite pegmatites that they're now looking to do a little exploration on this summer to see if they can find any lithium-bearing minerals in the rocks. The company themselves last year expanded the area around the Ferguson Lake, so they wanted to actually have the whole package anywhere where they sort of had surface showings of mineralization, either copper or the ore they're looking at, gold showings as well. So that they really, as I said, they've doubled the size of the project, and they've also found some new, claimed a couple of projects nearby to give them some further upside. December last year, they raised additional capital. So now they have about $9 million in the bank. And so the update report that I wrote covers off sort of what's happened, as well as lays out the potential for the company and the valuation that I ascribe to it.
Very promising updates indeed that warrant more attention. So let's break this down a bit. Can you tell us about the progress of exploration work at the main Ferguson Lake project?
Yeah, so just to recap last year, because a lot happened both at the after my report came out. They spent about almost $15 million last year on exploration activities. They put a new resource out, a mineral resource estimate, based on some historical drill core and some samples they've done. That came out sort of in the June timeframe. They then did over 18,000 meters of drilling, about 68 holes. They did some in-hole geophysics and some met testing. So they've actually identified, 5 new areas around the project that are similar for the nickel, copper, cobalt, palladium, and platinum they've been looking at before. This year, they're planning to do about 20,000 meters, about 75 holes in and around the Ferguson Lake project area, and they're looking at testing, the initial areas they've been looking at, which are the high grade base metals and the PGM, and they want to basically, fill in, do some infill drilling around the resource, as well as do some expansion drilling, so they can move some of the inferred minerals to measured and indicated, and they can grow the inferred by further trying to find the down dip extensions and the extent of the existing mineralization. As I previously mentioned, there are 10 zones on the actual project right now, and so they basically want to expand on the 5 that have that were part of the original resource, and then they want to add in the new areas to grow the resource.
And given that things seem to be moving in the right direction, you mentioned earlier that they have expanded their land package. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so the original Ferguson Lake was 10 mining leases that covered over about 90 square kilometers. They added another 160 kilometers around the project. Any place they found around, they could see the base metals or PGMs, any outcroppings, they actually also stake those claims. So they really have a district size package right now that they can put in towards, what they will, as they're working towards a PEA to further the project along. They also, in nearby, grabbed 2 projects. One's the Quartzite Lake project, and the other was the Kaminak Lake project. And again, these are fairly large land packages. The Quartzite Lake is more than 50 square kilometers. The Kaminak Lake area, the project is actually called Mac Island, and it's almost 30 square kilometers. So again, and they were looking in the region, they found some surface mineralization, mostly gold in this case. And they did some, they had a previous drill sample that they had from a project. It had 70 meters at about 2 grams per ton. And also they found some surface sampling they did, that they found gold in sort of the 3 gram to 50 gram per ton from surface sampling. So they also staked this out. So, it's not just the company now has more than just Ferguson Lake, but definitely the focus is on the Ferguson Lake project.
And taking all of that into account, were there any updates to your ratings and target price?
Yeah, so what I did in my model, so right now I have a model and a price target based on a number of different factors. And so what I do when I'm modeling their resource is I only take a 75% credit for their M&I resource, 50% for their inferred. I only assign a 5% value using the commodity prices to the resources in the ground. Because we're at an early stage, I only assign a 5% value. So there's lots of upside there. But I did adjust the commodity prices to the 2025 commodity prices, and they had increased a little bit. And I did also adjust the share price to the equity raise they did in December, and adjusted the cash, because the cash at the time, I'm assuming the net cash minus the debt and some activity is now around $8 million of net cash. And so, yeah, the target price did go up slightly from $5 to $5.25. And you can look at the report itself, and there's section 6 of it has a very detailed calculation of how I do it. And for investors who want to, adjust it themselves, they can adjust their own pricing, and they can look at to see what their value might come out at.
And Chris, for the investors watching us, are there important events that they should pay attention to in the rest of 2023?
Yeah, CNRI has a lot going on, and for investors who want a good news flow and a project that I believe is moving forward, this is a good one to watch. They do have they completed their spring program, so we're looking for the drill results for those ones to come out, and they're also continuing with the summer program. It's restarted in June, so they're well into it now. There should be a new NI 4301 mineral resource estimate out by the end of this year, maybe early next year. That's going to incorporate all the drilling from 2021 through to 2023. And it's important to note is that they did publish an updated resource last June of 2022, but it did not include the 2021 drilling or any of the 2022 drilling. So, they've done thousands of meters that will be incorporated in their resource, so that we should see, some change, an increase in the actual resource when the new one comes out, either at the end of this year or the beginning of this year. And also, you'll see probably other news release as they advance the project to the PEA stage. They want to move it forward, continue moving it forward. So they'll probably start, issuing economics around it. They'll be issuing news releases on the actual met work that's done to process the ore. And so that you'll probably see news releases on that as they work towards that PEA study to move the project along.
Very informative indeed. And viewers can download the update report from eResearch's website. Chris Thompson from eResearch, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights.
Thank you.